Welcome to the Main Event Wrestling Cards podcast. My name is Adam Gelman. This is episode 2. I am excited to be back. Last week was a ton of fun. Had a lot of great feedback from the community. I'm excited to be back again for another week. As you can see, I got a little bit of an upgraded setup. I've got some feedback to include this on other platforms, so I'm going to include a video element for the first time on YouTube. I'm still trying to figure out how to get that everything set up on YouTube to be able to deliver a video version of this for those of you who like to listen that way versus on Spotify or Apple Podcasts where it is right now. But I got a microphone, got some stuff. We're increasing to pro level here week by week. Hopefully you guys will continue to check back in. I've got a number of things to talk about this week. I'm kind of shocked at how much news is finally coming out in terms of like how things are progressing with wrestling cards, how things are progressing with wrestling in general, what Topps' plans are for the national convention, stuff like that. We're also going to do a set spotlight at the end, just like we did last week. Excited for that. So be sure to stick around. And we're going to be back next week, I think, talking about some of those controversial items I hinted at last week. I think it's interesting that, when we get into this part of the year and we start thinking about how SummerSlam sort of comes into focus in conjunction with the card market as well. Like, this is becoming a must see part of television for WWE, and it is part of the most busy sessions for the cards as well, just because everybody is hoping that the national convention turns out to be as awesome as it usually is. So let's start with the wrestling side of this and sort of its impact on the card market, because after Raw last night, I think we're having a much clearer picture on what the main events for each night are going to be. This is the first 2-night SummerSlam that they're ever running. I think after denying Minneapolis, boo, of WrestleMania 41, and now 42, they sort of said, well, we'll give you a 2-night event, but it's not going to happen until 2026. So you can imagine how that has changed a lot of the way that WWE sort of plans out their events. And now, because they knew Minneapolis was going to have a 2-night SummerSlam in 2026, they're like, well, we should do it in 2025 too. Why not? They've sold out almost both nights. It's going to be an awesome card. Absolutely stacked. I'm excited to see sort of this Punk and Gunther sort of matchup. I'm very excited to see a lot of the women's matches. I think all of these matches will have high quality action and really will be fun to watch. I don't know how Seth's injury really changed everything. I don't think we'll ever know. But if it does turn out that he is not really injured, I think the whole event will have seemed much more sort of robust in its planning. I think everybody is expecting Punk and Gunther are going to go and put on a banger. Seth is going to cash in. He's going to cash in on whoever wins likely that event, coming out just absolutely beaten up and laying on the mat. And, it's interesting because Seth Rollins as an individual has had one of the most prolific WWE careers of anyone. And yet his cards really aren't that valuable. And, they have had their moments in the sun. There's been 4-figure sales and stuff like that. But, he's not thought of on the same level as some of these other things, because some of these other wrestlers, because, I'm not sure the collecting population really ever got to experience him the same way that they did Roman Reigns and other prospects. His rookie was in the 2013 top set that I'm going to highlight later on in this episode. And I mean, it was a very unusual time for wrestling cards. So that entire prospecting phase of his career really never got the chance to take off as if he were a rookie in 2015, where they had Undisputed and all these autographs and everything like that. So, I mean, Seth had cards. He had autographed cards. He had autographed rookies. But it wasn't like the ultra modern hobby that really fuels a lot of the prospecting speculation. He's also been injured majorly a couple of times during his career. And I think that really sort of changed the way that the population of collectors out there really viewed him. And even more than that, I mean, he's always been the bridesmaid, never really the bride. Roman Reigns has always been the bride, and I think when you look at what Seth Rollins has accomplished, Money in the Bank, multi-time champion, first world heavyweight champion under the current belt, like he's won more intercontinental titles, tag team titles. I mean, he's literally done everything. And, he's not thought of in the same way that a lot of these other guys are because he never really main evented a WrestleMania multiple times. He had the heist of the century, which was probably one of the top moments of the modern WWE era, but it wasn't like he was part of the match from the beginning. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar really dominated those years of WWE. And so when you're not at the top in a male in the male capacity from that perspective, and most of the collecting at that point was female focused. People wanted to get Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair and so on and so forth. Like he just never really solidified that collecting base the same way some of the other guys did. Now, I think people are finally starting to recognize that his new character that sort of came out of this visionary sort of even before the faction got started, that was really the first time he's really gotten the type of crowd reactions that I think WWE was hoping for. And it spurred some of the collectors out there to really want to put some money into his cards, knowing that he's absolutely a first ballot Hall of Famer, if you use that analogy. And, I think he's going to be around for a very long time, not just for him, but for his wife and potentially even his daughter. I mean, like, you have to recognize, like, his lineage is going to continue even through his wrestling school, everything. Like, he's a very important aspect of this. So if he's injured and truly out for a year plus, like, that is a humongous problem for WWE. Um, Additionally, we have Roman Reigns back for the first time since WrestleMania. I know with his sort of schedule, that's pretty much expected. He's going to work the big shows of the year. He's not going to waste his time with, Backlash and whatever the way that I think he did in the past. And I think his appearances are going to be more and more sporadic over the years. And, given that his health is an issue, just overall, thanks to the leukemia that kept him out during COVID and stuff like that. Like, I think he's working a lighter schedule. He's going to start being in more Hollywood productions. We already saw that he's part of the Street Fighter cast as Akuma, which is awesome. And, there's a bunch of stuff that him and Becky and a few others have announced are part of their sort of future path in Hollywood. And Roman, I think, is probably more likely to engage in that more so than anybody else because he's already sort of pre-built that lineage with other Samoan people like Dwayne Johnson, who have made a name for themselves. John Cena as well has made a name for himself. Dave Batista, you name it. Like, is Roman Reigns the next guy to sort of make that jump? And I think everybody's expecting that he'll have some element of that in his future. But he's back for right now. And now that they don't have sort of a plan for Seth, I think the pivot is how do we involve Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed into the picture with Jey Uso now sort of coming in as well after last night. I think the tag match is going to be made here pretty shortly, and you'll have Jey Uso and Roman Reigns versus the Browns, and I think it's going to be fun. I mean, like, Braun Breaker as a collecting target has always been somebody that I think a lot of people have liked, and the future of wrestling is clearly square on his shoulders. He has so much athleticism. He has so much charisma. The crowd's already reacting to him in a very high manner. Like, he's doing things that people at his age should be doing. Is he as quick a riser as somebody like Tiffany Stratton or even Rhea Ripley? No, because the division is bigger. So you have more rungs of the ladder to climb. You have a lot more going on that is required of you to be able to show the WWE that you can handle being the guy, the way Cody Rhodes is. And I think by the time we get to WrestleMania 45, he'll be clearly established as one of the main event guys. I don't think that there's any rush there anymore. There was originally, but I don't think there is anymore because people need time to develop. And his cards started off, you remember back to 2022 Prism, where it was really his rookie card, had his black one of one sold for like $22,000 or some ridiculous number. And I was saying, okay, Braun Breaker's arrived. And if you remember coming out of WrestleMania that year, he was on Raw the next night. He was like, I think he was winning the NXT title back, but then they put him back in NXT and it took him about a year to come back to the main roster. And now that they've kind of like embraced more of the Steiner presentation, he's gotten a lot more. He went really far down on his card values, but now he's started to come back up. I think he's going to be one of those prospect guys that a lot of people are going to like. And as you get into the Prism sort of like era of wrestling cards, like his rookie, Tiffany Stratton's rookie, like it was all in the same year. And I think that 22 Prism set will go down in history because of the importance of that in their specific career paths and how much success they have. So in terms of that, really nice. I like what they're doing with Becky Lynch and Lyra. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on the cards because you can see behind me for those watching on video. I have a vested interest in Becky doing well. Um, Happy Gilmore 2 is set to premiere on July 25th. She has a small role in that. There was a notification that came out through Deadline that she's been cast in a pilot for FX from the same people who have written a number of other really funny shows. So, I mean, like, I'm really curious how that changes her trajectory in WWE. Maybe she starts to look at more of the Hollywood path as well. She had a role in Star Trek and a few other things that have come out in the last few years. But so she's looking really good coming into SummerSlam. I love that she is trolling everybody wearing red and yellow. I think and that's the thing, like anytime the online wrestling community decides that they don't like somebody, they're going to compare you to Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan is the worst. And Becky has sort of embraced that by wearing red and yellow and just playing the heel character and trolling people at an expert level. So I mean, like, she's done really well with this elevation of Lyra Valkyria. I mentioned it last week. I think it continued this week, and I'm really excited to see where that goes at SummerSlam. Now that the title match is no DQ and everything else, um, I'm curious if they align Becky with somebody else in terms of like having them interfere in the match so she can win. Vegas odds have Lyra Valkyria ahead, and I think this story likely points to Lyra getting her title back. But I'm curious how Bayley factors in because she's not in the match. She doesn't have a match at SummerSlam yet. I'm curious if there's somebody yet that they have not brought to the picture that could be coming into Becky's uh, orbit, I guess, if you want to call it. So maybe something goes down at SummerSlam where Becky retains by some fluke and Lyra is screwed out of ever challenging her for the title ever again. But I think the story demands that Lyra wins, and I think that would be a really big sort of crowning moment for her and could elevate her even further than she's already been elevated. So in terms of like the wrestling, forecast over the next couple of weeks, like SummerSlam is definitely weighing big. Gunther and CM Punk is going to be fun. Cena and Cody Rhodes is going to be fun. Could they be really doing a double switch and trying the Bret Hart and Steve Austin move where Cena can turn back face before he leaves and Cody becomes Homelander like we've always wanted him to see how that plays out. I think that would be a fun Homelander Cody sort of thing, like with him holding the title and John Cena now being the face is going to be interesting to see. But it's clear like people don't really want to boo John Cena, but this heel character is really fun. I think people are underselling how much it's done for his cards. John Cena's card values are up a huge amount over the last few months since this heel turn, and I don't think that it's going to go any differently. Even when he goes back, once he retires, I think there's even more room for them to go up. So it's going to be interesting over the next few months to see how his values perform and hopefully migrating more into like the card news side of this, we will have new product to celebrate. I think we found out that last week Cactus Jack Hobby for Topps Chrome was going to be delayed. A lot of online vitriol around that, and Venom sort of flying around the Topps is mismanaging things. And I think everybody understands that we want new product and we want it as quickly as possible. And seeing that even yesterday when Topps is posting their weekly report of what's going to be happening wrestling pre-orders are not on that list. So we're out at least another week, if not longer. I'm curious, where they are aligning product to be released, because at this point, no one really knows what's going on. Topps has really not given us a lot of information. I'm sure they would love to share each and every last detail to make sure that people aren't creating their own narratives, but in reality, they haven't shared a single thing. And that's where a lot of this is so frustrating, is like, we want to know like what's going on, because you can't keep us at bay with Tops now. You can't keep us, chasing down specific things without information to understand what's coming. And when you're doing the signings at Raw, you're doing the signings at NXT and pay-per-views, and we see the cards on the table and we know more sets are planned, we know more sets are coming. Like, how is that calendar then going to be created to be able to support 5, 6 products right in a row if everything is ready to go? I think that's where the question marks sort of start. And then, we see last night, even like Roxanne Perez is signing a set that looks like it's probably going to be Finest, maybe Exalted. So, I mean, it's like, how do you continue to go down a path where the population of collectors out there is continually seeing new stuff, new stuff, new stuff, but nothing is being released. And we're just excited. We're passionate, and we want to see this stuff take a really fun turn where we have new cards, new stuff to chase, especially with the national convention coming up. Like, if you think about the way the national convention is delivered, you have all of the dealers in the biggest card show in the world, and then you have all of the vendors showing off everything that they are trying to bring to the next couple of months worth of product, plus maybe a year-long strategy. And they're giving away wrapper redemptions, they're doing all of these other things, and there's no new wrestling product, really. Like, that just is so frustrating to everybody. So let's talk a little bit about the national convention, because I was originally expecting the Cactus Jack hobby might be available there. It doesn't look like that's going to be something that people are going to have access to at the show, which is beyond unfortunate. Like, there is no better way to create buzz for a set than releasing it during the national convention. It's so good to build a product around that show, because every collector who matters is at that show. And I think, you know, when you look at the videos, you look at the influencers, like, when I say collectors who matter, like, in reality, for a business proposal, those are the people that matter. It's not you and me. It's not the people who are actually ripping the packs. It's the people who show it to others and tell them this is the hot, cool new thing that everybody's got to chase. So I think, like, having it at the national convention means you have a platform, a launch platform that might be different than if you just were to say, "Hey, here's all the breakers on Fanatics Live and whatnot, who are going to rip the hell out of this box." Like, it's not the same. National convention is the platform for launch in the biggest way, shape, and form. Look at Topps Chrome Baseball, that just came out this week. Like, they are really ramping up products so that by the time they get to the national convention, their biggest and best products are available, and wrestling is no longer included in that. We haven't heard any information on what Topps's plans are for the rapper redemptions either. So for those of you who haven't been to the national convention before, you can buy boxes on the floor. There's a list of products that you can buy. You bring them to Topps and you rip the box in front of them, open a pack, and then they give you a rapper redemption free pack, which include, in the past, Bowman Chrome rookie cards, autographs, stuff like that for baseball. But I think they're starting to expand a lot of that as they get closer to the national convention. They're trying to expand it and maybe into some other licenses. Hopefully, wrestling is involved in that, because I think it would give a little bit of a tertiary chase until we get more hobby product on the floor, and who knows. But it's really interesting to sort of see how Topps is going to approach the national convention, because they also have a question and answer session that usually takes place during the course of that of the show, and you have to go and sign up for it. It fills up really fast. A lot of people there probably now are going to be asking about products like Topps Chrome, Cactus Jack, Topps Finest, Royalty, whatever. And I'm really curious because there's usually reporters, I quote unquote journalists from the cards side of things that will replay all of the answers that Topps gives during the course of that event. It's usually one of the more informative sessions that Topps does all year because it's something that people like Beckett and Collect and all these other people, they will be at that event and they will be reporting on it. But it's also all of these collectors from the floor who have signed up to be a part of the Q&A. They go in, they sit down, they have as much right to ask questions as anybody else. And we've gotten some crazy ones that have come out of that. I've been to that question and answer for a couple of different national convention shows. It's always a fun time. There's always giveaways and stuff. So I'm really interested to see if somebody pops a wrestling question in there. I'm sure there will be at least one who wants to know when they're going to be releasing the next Topps products. Additionally, the trade nights going to be really cool to get everybody back into a room for trade nights on all three of the nights for the national convention. This year, I know for the last 2 years, there's been the main event, which is the party version that launched this Patreon group. Unfortunately, this year I have some family commitments and I can't make it to the show. It's impossible to plan, without a lot of help from a lot of awesome people. And I think this year we kind of all just sort of resigned ourselves to the fact that maybe we'll take a year off for the main event and hopefully come back strong in the future. There will be a wrestling area at the trade nights. I've confirmed that with the show. So even though it won't be a main event with all the party and giveaways and all sorts of awesome stuff, there will be an area at the trade night for wrestling collectors to congregate. So if you're looking for an opportunity to meet other wrestling collectors, do some trading there, if you can brave the crowds, there will be a wrestling section at the trade nights. Additionally, there's going to be the panel discussion, which I know Paul and Tony will be running. Paul is from Wrestling Card Price Guide and Tony from WrestlingTradingCards.com. They do a really good job just being on the main stage and bringing wrestling cards to the forefront of the national convention that way. So, when you look at that piece of it, plus dealers like RBI Crew 7, Sports Card Junction, Griffey Guy, all those guys that I put in my post yesterday on the Patreon group, like there's a list of people there that are going to have an absolute ton of wrestling cards available to buy. Plus, you have all the people surrounding those tables who will likely have stuff to move. So don't go there expecting that wrestling cards are going to be lost and forgotten. They will definitely be a major part of the show overall. I think the other piece of the NSCC that a lot of people really don't sort of tend to understand is like it makes a lot of sense for collectors to get stuff done ahead of the show because so many of the dealers at the show are on Instagram, they're on Twitter, they're on eBay. Like you can absolutely reach out to them ahead of the show. I know there's a lot of different people that construct deals ahead of the show so they can just walk up and hand them cash or cards or whatever that they need to get these deals done. I cannot recommend that enough, especially with the dealers that are looking to move their wrestling cards for a reasonable manner where they don't have to worry about the overhead of paying for the national table, which is expensive. Um, I have some targets. If people see Becky Lynch one of ones floating around at the show, absolutely would love to get a notification there. A lot of eyes on the floor. I've already sort of said like, hey, I'll be keeping an eye out for you. Thank you guys so much for all of that. Really appreciate it. I would love to be on the floor. I love walking around. I love talking to everybody, meeting up with all my friends. Like that's really the point of the national convention for me. But I know for others, it's just as much a business thing as ever. There's going to be a lot of big wrestling card collectors that are going and will be a part of it. And if you look at a table, in that area where RBI Crew and Sports Card Junction was last year, I think they're going to try and replicate that again this year, where you're going to have a lot of tables around that area that are serving the wrestling card community. But otherwise, just walk up to people. I mean, you all have a shared interest, and make some relationships that last past the show. I've made some of my best friends in the hobby from going to national conventions, and if I could be there, I would absolutely go and enjoy it. So again, Chicago's next week. It's going to be It's going to be all about the national, and I cannot be more excited for everybody who's going. It's such a great time. It's kind of the WrestleMania of sports cards. And if you haven't gone once, I would absolutely recommend making it a point to go and just experience it. Just be a part of it for the first time. At least go to one. And this one will be exceptionally busy. It will be so busy because the hobby is on fire. And, when the hobby is up, the show becomes like this mega attraction. And when the hobby is down, it's still a mega attraction, but just on a smaller scale. For the first time, they're having two levels worth of tables. So you have the upstairs, which has about 75 tables. You have the downstairs, which has hundreds and hundreds of tables, plus all the vendor sections. So go check it out, even if you're just looking for wrestling cards. Maybe your collection expands beyond wrestling cards. It'll be a great time overall. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or need anything. I can connect you with people if I need. So that's that. Moving on to the set spotlight for this episode, I want to cover 2013 Topps WWE because it is really important as it comes into the SummerSlam weekend because almost all the main rookies from that set in Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are going to be potentially a part of the show. Seth is injured, I know, but Roman especially. And I wanted to talk about this set because for a lot of the cards in it, you have Dean Ambrose as rookie now, John Moxley, and obviously he's a major part of AEW. And there's other aspects of the set that are just really, really cool, but it's so hard to find. And you can find base Roman Reigns rookies $30, $40 a piece anytime you want. Those are plentiful. The set was plentiful. They had a retail version of it as well, where you can get relics in packs that have Roman Reigns as a rookie. They have autographs for Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and others. So, it is one of the most important sets that occurred before the ultra modern era really began in wrestling. Baseball, football, basketball, all of those ultra modern really started well before this particular 2013 set. But when it comes to wrestling, a lot of the ultra modern began right after this in 2015, 2016, where we had more regular parallel structures, we had more autograph content, on card autographs, auto relics, all of those things really sort of percolated with the release of Undisputed in 2015. So this 2013 top set was much different because it was still part of sort of the previous era, but had a foot in the new era because of the people involved. I believe that it's probably difficult to find at this point because some of the wrestling collectors that likely bought into those cards kept them, held them, and either left the hobby or are not selling them. Wrestling card collectors tend to be hoarders, like myself. Just look at the background in my screen here. So people want to keep what they pull. And there were a multitude of parallels in the most recent Topps release, but back then there were only three or four. So you had the base, which had the white border. You had a black border for the base, which was like one every pack. And then you had silver, which was out of 25, and you had gold out of 10. And I believe there's even a 101 and some printing plates. So the 101s are usually red when it comes to Topps in that era of wrestling, but I haven't even seen a gold. I have not seen a gold Roman Reigns. I have not seen a silver Roman Reigns. A lot of these things just don't pop up on eBay. I was looking on Card Ladder. I can't even find one that's sold since Card Ladder has been tracking auctions, and it's weird because there's 10 copies of this Roman Reigns gold. There are other golds like Big E, who has a rookie in that. He's been sold. CM Punk has cards, I believe. So I mean, when you look at the structure of the set, other golds are selling. So I know they exist. I have not seen anything for the main guys in a very, very long time. I think if a Roman Reigns gold came up and it was, let's say it's graded PSA 10, it's definitely a four-figure card. It may even be mid four figures depending on how many people are going to chase it. But that rookie is probably one of the most important WWE rookie cards to exist since that Roman Reigns, or since that John Cena and Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton set for 2001 Royal Rumble. There are so many people in that, and it's really, really cool to see that come through. So if you are a big fan of 2013 Tops, this is going to be maybe a section of the podcast that will give you some feedback there as you get going. Other than that, I'm really done for the week, but I'm going to continue to post on main event wrestling cards on the Patreon group. If you're not familiar with the Patreon group, it is www.patreon.com/main event wrestling cards. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at SC Uncensored. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at WWE Gelman. Really excited to come back week after week and talk wrestling cards and wrestling with you guys. I hope this has been as fun for you over these last couple of weeks as it has for me. Looking forward to future episodes. And again, next week, I'm going to try and cover some of these controversial topics. I'm not even going to give hints because I know it's going to get really, really, sort of hot and bothered if I start, sharing takes ahead of that podcast. But definitely tune in, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks again.